In 2011, Fred Walden was asked to host Morning Brew. That request came from the left.
Did I not say I was totally anti-Vietnam? And did I not say I would never have fought in Vietnam?
Several years earlier, the right had asked JBK to voice their concerns.
The press in this country, who's in the tank for Barry Obama and the rest of the left wing, failed to inform and educate viewers and listeners to. And it's very frustrating.
Can these two broadcasting legends share the airwaves, debate intelligently about sports and politics, and enjoy a cup of Joe without driving each other crazy?
Did he take a pay cut, Governor Walker?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
That's not the issue, Fred.
No, it is. No, it is.
It's got nothing to do with it.
He takes a pay
Nice
cut.
try.
Nice try.
We're about to find out because Morning Brew is now on.
Hey, thank you, Mr. C. It is the Morning Brew every Saturday morning right here on AM 1050 KCA. You can join us, and we'd love your input. And if you disagree, probably get more airtime than if you agree. And bottom line is you're probably not going to agree with both of us simultaneously, so give us a call, 1-888-909-1050, 1-888-909-1050. It is toll-free, and producer Nick will get you on the air. That's a guarantee. You can also email us, sportsfred@aol.com, sportsfred@aol.com. He is JBK. I'm FW. We'd love to hear from you. And again, your input is always wanted on this show. So many topics, so many things to talk about this morning. But, hey, JBK, it's snowing where you are. Is it really?
You know, Fred, when I signed on for living on the East Coast, I signed on to change of seasons. I signed on to foliage. I signed on to frost on the pumpkins. I did not sign on to a foot of snow before Halloween.
But you know, you're making a good point, and we'll talk about the World Series in a moment.
Yes,
maybe baseball should cut back to 154 if the players are willing to take a little bit of a cut, because again, you know, we're talking a thing now where we're almost in November, and if the game was in New York or Boston or something like that yesterday, and it could have been snowed out, whatever the case might be, I don't know what we're doing here, but we're stretching these seasons in sports to such a point now where it's sort of ridiculous. And again, we missed the game on Wednesday. They played back Thursday and Friday. Some people think that gave the Cardinals the advantage. I think the Rangers blew it, of course, on Thursday night when they had one strike to go and couldn't get it done. But I mean, what do you think about baseball now going almost to November? And as you indicated, the seasons certainly are changing. You can believe in climate change or not. I do, but even if you don't, we can see what goes on in late October and November. Your thoughts, JBK?
I know, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, first of all, the baseball season's far too long, weather notwithstanding. You have guys breaking down physically, and 162 games, and, you know, it really hit me in the last two seasons, just actually how grueling the schedule is, because, you know, you're a kid growing up, you sit there and go, well, gee, baseball, all they do is swing a bat and run around a field, unlike football, where they're getting popped every Sunday for 16 straight weeks. But you know what? The travel, the grueling, I mean, you think about the fact that sometimes these guys play 13 games in 14 days. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
And at some point, it's got to break down. So you're right. The weather is obviously a factor that has to be considered, but the season is far too long. But the same thing with hockey. I mean, the Stanley Cup was won on a day here, you know, in the Boston area where it was like 91 degrees. You know, hello. But I'm telling you, Fred, I'm not a happy guy today. You know,
Why?
Mr. C very capably, very aptly filled in for me last week,
right.
And I thank him greatly. He's our East Coast producer here on Morning Brew.
Right.
I'm sure you can still hear a little bit of the horse in my voice.
Yeah. And
I have to tell you, it's not making me a happy camper this Saturday morning, but I'm happy to be back on the air with you.
All right, World Series over now. The St. Louis Cardinals, 11th time in the history of baseball. The Cardinals have come up with the championship. Second only, of course, New York Yankees, and they're number 27. Any thoughts about what happened Thursday night and Friday night in St. Louis, Missouri?
Listen, Fred, everyone's calling it one of the greatest baseball games ever played or World Series games, and I have no problem with that. I'm not going to sit here and BS our listeners in the Inland Empire and coast to coast on the Internet. I did not see either game. I heard about both games. I was under the weather, and I'm going to be very frank with you. The fact that there was no East Coast or West Coast major market team this year in the series was a real downer for me. It just didn't have that. If the Yankees are in it, and everybody knows my allegiance to the Red Sox, but if the Yankees or the Phillies or the Mets are in it and not the Red Sox, I'm going to watch it. But when you got these two and I don't want to say Midwestern because Texas is more Southwest, but when you have these two teams that are not from the major coast markets like Morning Brew,
right?
All right, then you're not going to get that excitement around the World Series. But having said that, I have a question for you, and I want to turn the tables on you. Is Nelson Cruz the Bill Buckner of our era?
Well, again, he's never been considered a great outfielder, and he didn't know how to play the wall. And
Fred, that's not playing the wall, my friend. That ball didn't even land on the wall.
Hello, but as soon as you go on the warning track and you're not used to it in a different ballpark, you probably get a little shaky, and he obviously got shaky.
The two magic words, Fred: warning track. That's why they have warning tracks. He didn't heed the warning track. I don't think he made it to the warning track before it was, obviously a non-catchable or a ball that was not going to be caught. Hello. But I still think Buckner takes the cake on the faux pas.
Isn't it interesting, though? You go back a week and a half, and he's the hero, the 6 home runs in the championship series, and now you bring this up, and is he going to be remembered for the 6 home runs, or he's going to be remembered for the mistake in the outfield? Probably the mistake in the outfield will overpower the home runs in the championship series. Agree?
Absolutely. That's unfortunately, unless this guy gets back to the series again with either the Rangers or somebody else, his legacy is going to be that miscatch. And, Fred, it's not even just 10 days or a week before. Did he not hit the go-ahead run?
Oh, yeah.
Home run like 2-3 innings earlier?
That's the point. I mean, people just remember what happened yesterday. That you've totally forgotten. Hey, I want to read you something from today's LA Times. It's a letter to the editor from Richard Katz from Los Angeles. Folks, we'd love your input on this show. If you agree with what Richard's going to say or what JBK says, what Fred said, we'd love to hear from you. Here it goes. Just finished watching one of the greatest World Series games of all time. This will be remembered with the 1975 Fisk game, or maybe Max's walk-off home run in 1960. Mazeroski, of course. Maz's walk-off in 1960. The fact is, I can go on and talk about great memories from our national pastime. Oh, by the way, who won the NBA title 2 years ago? I bet we all have to sit and think about that one. I didn't miss those spoiled brats one bit. My only question, when does spring training start? Point being, folks, Richard Katz is saying basically, yeah, we care about our baseball, and we definitely care about our football, but nobody cares about the NBA, JBK.
No, nobody does right now. And I think did they not announce now the games are canceled through the end of November?
Yeah,
did that come out last night?
Yeah, 2 more weeks. Yesterday the announcement came from David Stern. And now he's saying, and this is what I'm talking about, you can say what you want about David Stern, and you can say with the Gumble comment about with the racial tinge, that I don't go for. But as far as David Stern being arrogant, yeah, he's arrogant. And again, folks, he's paid his 10 or 12 or 15 million by the owners. Just remember this. So now he's saying, well, now the proposals may even be tougher because we got to make up all the money that we're going to lose by not playing the first month of the season. So he's squeezing the players. And I'm going to repeat this, folks. It started off, players were getting 57%. They're now down to 52.5%. And they went back into that meeting yesterday assuming, okay, maybe the owners would say 52. Owners said, take it or leave it at 50. And folks, it's worse than that even, because there's $500 million taken out every year for the expenses of the owners. So it's already 50-50 at this moment in time. Now the owners want more. And listen, I'm not a great negotiator, never have in my life, but all I can tell you is this. You get 4.5% back, wait 6 years, and then get the other 2.5% back. You can't get all 7 back, common sense says, because Billy Hunter's on the other side. He doesn't want to lose his job. The player's going to think Hunter's crazy. You just got to compromise at some point. It's like the debt ceiling nonsense, and the whole world saw it. They laughed at us. Well, all the sports fans are now laughing at the NBA. Agree or disagree?
Here's the problem with the NBA. It's a $3 billion a year industry. It has, obviously, a tremendous global reach, but the problem is there's a lack of discipline amongst the owners in how to spend that money. And you have players who are going to take every inch or every penny that they can get because they have a limited shelf life, obviously, in their career. And let's be fair, the average NBA player is not going to go on to major corporate or Wall Street type endeavors after the career is over. I mean, the statistics show that. So they're doing what they can to get the most out of the owners for the players, regardless of where they are on the salary scale. But here's what gets me, Fred. If the owners were to get fiscally responsible and they started to spend more responsibly and started to act in a manner that was prudent, and they balanced their books, and they ran a better business model, then Billy Hunter and Fred Wallen would be accusing the owners of collusion. And that's where I get very, very angry, during these labor disputes, because when owners try to impose some kind of self-discipline amongst themselves, they're now considered to be acting in a cartel and in collusion, and therefore they get fined big time by guys, like the NLRB or independent arbitrators who found that with Major League Baseball in the early 90s?
Yeah,
80s?
but here's the point.
So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
No, not really. Because you don't have to have restraints on how much you can pay the players. You can just share the money that you're making more fairly among all 30 clubs in the NBA. Meaning, David Stern says 22 teams lost money last year. I haven't seen the books. The players haven't seen the books. But let's say he's half right, or he's telling the truth half the time. 11 teams lost money. I don't care how many dollars those 22 teams lost or those 11 teams lost. In total, that league made a lot of money because the Lakers made a couple $100 million, the Knicks made a couple $100 million. Put it all into a thing and divide it. I mean, that has nothing to do with the players, nothing to do with anybody would say, hey, it's a cartel. They could do that instead of the 30% that they get from the TV money, the smaller market teams, make it 50%. And that would overcome many of those 22 teams that Stern says are losing money. Now, what would be wrong with that idea? I'm brought up a Laker fan. I think Jerry Buss is one of the great owners in the history of professional sports. He gives and he gives. He gives to the players, and he's a players owner, and anybody who's played for him would say that. But, okay, and I'm not telling to give it all back, but if the Knicks and the Lakers and the Celtics make all this money, put it into a pot. Why are the players involved? And yet they are involved because they've already given back 4.5% plus $500 million up front. Nobody would say if the owners put that into a pot that's anything to do with a cartel or illegal. Why don't they just do it in that direction? Because they want to take from the players. And all this is a battle so they can steal our money as fans. Do you agree? Disagree? Tell me what you think, JBK.
Fred, totally disagree. Here's the issue.
Right.
I hear what you're saying about revenue split. You're obviously looking for more of an NFL-type model.
Yeah.
But if you do that, Fred, understand one thing. Then the Lakers and the owners, what'd you call Jerry Buss? The owner's player's owner, whatever?
Yeah, one of the great
those
players.
Those kind of owners are going to have less disposable income.
True.
If they're sharing it with the other teams like the NFL, to spend on the Kobe's and the LeBrons and all that. And so all I'm saying to you is that will then, no doubt, Fred, it will impose discipline and fiscal restraint on the owners to have that kind of revenue sharing. No disagreement there. But once that kicks in, then the owners get set up for collusion. And that's where I get upset, because if owners sit there and go, okay, we're going to share all our money, okay, and we're going to have something like a hard cap in place or something close to it or a luxury tax or whatever, they get accused of colluding and keeping the free agent market repressed and restrained. And that's where it goes south. You can't have it both ways.
Okay,
but baseball has done that.
But look, you're a lawyer, and I'm the world's worst negotiator. I never win in any negotiations in my entire broadcasting career, and that's anybody would know me would agree there. I've never won any discussion as far as that because I always lose. I always back down. But here's my point: simultaneously, you're taking back from the players. Simultaneously, take 10% back and put it into a pot. I don't think the players would in any way, or their lawyers in any way, would disagree with that. Show some balance. Show some fairness. And again, it's easy for David Stern to say, and how, it's almost like your guys, the Republicans, you say something enough, people start to believe it. So Stern says, 22 teams are losing money. Okay, even if that's true, and I don't believe it's true, but let's say it's true, that doesn't mean the league's losing money. He doesn't go out and say, 22 teams are losing money, but we still made a couple billion. He never says that. He just says 22 teams are losing money. So people driving around listening to that think the league actually lost money, not knowing the fact, no, there's billions to share, and the owners just want a higher percentage of that for their side. But I mean, you think the average person, and this is a question, let me throw it out there. Do you think the league made or lost money last year, the National Basketball Association, or the entire time of this collective bargaining agreement? Do you think the league made or lost money? Because the way Stern's talking, they're in poverty. They're going bankrupt. JBK, you can't disagree with that. He's trying to tell us that they're losing money.
He's not lying about that, Fred. It's definitely a failing business model. But the issue is, how healthy is a league going to be when 22 of its 30 franchises are not well? And that they're glowing not from the wealth of a good economy, but they're glowing from the sick of a fever. That's what he's trying to say. You see the glow, but I say it's a fever, and so does David Stern. I'm not saying that his percentages are necessarily correct or that his formula, but the fact of the matter is that the NBA is a troubled league because they have gone over the top in the way that they spend. And a lot of it has been based on bad discipline by individual owners. And to rein those owners in, you're going to have something which is, I guarantee you, is going to come up in the form of an antitrust or collusion charge 2, 3, 4 years down the road. That's my concern. But I will say this, Fred. For two people who admittedly don't really give a rat's